Hey, sixth grade. So this is the instructional video on the top view for your second assessment worksheet. So the last video, we did our side view and made sure that we went through our step guide and specifications checklist to make sure that all the specifications were correct for the design of our side view. Well, we have to do that same thing for the top view. So since we ended with step 2, we're going to go right on to step 3. And the same rules apply. If you know the specification and you get it right and you're 100% accurate on it and you know that, cross it off. If you do it and you're kind of iffy about it, you don't know if it's exactly right, just put a check mark next to it. So this way, when you hand it in, we can go over the checklist together and I can help you with the areas that you don't know. So the step 3 of this second assessment worksheet says we have to draw the axle lines into the top view. So just like we did with our brainstorming ideas, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to line up where our axle hole was with our triangle, and we're going to draw a line in the top view. Remember, these must line up correctly. You're not making two different cars here, so the axles must be 100% accurate when we're lining them up. Now, once we have our axles in there, and it says make sure to line up the axle holes in the side view with the top view, and that's what we did. So we're good there. I'm just going to cross that off. It's not a specification, but it definitely tells me that I'm lined up and I'm ready to go. So now we're going to get to the specification portion of this, and I'm going to bring up my highlighter. And it says, well, we got to make sure that the length is the same, and we are the same. We set that up 9.5 inches in our first one, and it is 9.5 inches in our second one. I made sure that I ran that length up. So we're good on that. And now we have to get in spec where the axles go through the car. We have to remember the width of the car at the axles that go through it to be in spec. So the width in our case is 1 3/8 inches to 1 5/8 inches according to the specification. So 1 3/8 inches to 1 5/8 inches. So I'll get my inch worksheet out. I'll find out where 3/8 of an inch is. And in this case, we're talking about 1 3/8 inches. So that means it's after the 1. So it'll be in between 1 and 2. And 3/8, 1 3/8 inches is here. And 1 5/8 inches is here. Now, in this document, we must do 1 5/8 inches. We cannot do 1 3/8 inches. That is not something we can do because 1 3/8 inches is the minimum, which means that if we're making a car where the axles go through it, so for example, here's the car that we had that I have in class, and this one you can see I left the wheels on here, but the other wheels are back here. So there's like axle holes here. That's where my other wheels would go. Where the wheels would go through the car, so where that axle goes through the car in both cases, you can see how the car gets wider, and it gets wider. And it's actually the same width as a piece of paper. You can see it. I lined it up so that you can see how it's the same thickness. Now, where those axles go through the car, you are not allowed to go any thinner than 1 5/8 inches. I've labeled it on here from 0 to 1 5/8 inches. That is the actual thickness of the piece of paper. 1 5/8 inches. You are not allowed to go any thinner than the highlighted marks when it comes to your design. So you can't go any thinner than 1 5/8 inches for this document. Now, although there is a minimum, if you did that minimum and you started to sand it down on both sides, you wouldn't be at the minimum and then your car would be out of spec. Just like when we were talking about the side view, if you sanded down your car in the side view and it was 8 inches, you would go less than 8 inches and you'd be out of spec and we'd have to snap the car. But we don't want to do that. So we're going to make sure that we are in spec. So wherever the axle goes through the car, our design has to be as wide as we can make it. So when I start designing this, I will do this one in red. And I'm going to make sure that the design goes as wide as I can for at least 2 squares. There's a reason I want it to be flat. The reason I want it to be flat is that I can always sand it down to a point. But if I cut it out to a point, then I could cut it too far and slice my axles off. But if I go out wide and then go straight across and then come back in, well, with that, I have some room to make a mistake, and then I can always sand it down later. Now, the other part of this is this center line right here is our line of symmetry. So that means whatever we're making on one side has to be the opposite, or I should say the mirror image of whatever's on the other side. So here we go. I'm just going to make a design. And then I'm going to keep this simple. I don't want to make it too crazy. That was the bell in my video, not for your class, so don't get too crazy. Start packing up yet. All right, so there's my design, and like I said, I wanted to make it fairly simple. Now, I'm going to do something in this top view that goes against what I was telling you in the side view. And I'm making it symmetrical. So whatever I did over here, I'm going to try to do it on this one. And use your graph paper to draw your lines so that it comes out nice and even. But what I'm going to do in the top view, and again, you don't have to shade this out. I'm just doing it for the demonstration here. What I'm doing in the top view that I did not do in the side view is I'm going to leave this flat in the front. The reason I'm going to do that is because if I've gone down to the point in the side view, it's okay if there's a flat front here because the wind will go over the top of that. It should be okay. You will be streamlined. So it's okay if you leave it. You don't always have to come to the point here. You can keep it flat. But if you take a look at my top view now, my top view is symmetrical. Both sides are equal. Where the axles go through it, I am as wide as I can be, 1 5/8 inches on both cases of those axles. And I am in spec. So if I know that, my length is good, I'm crossing that off. My specification where the width of my axles is good, that means it's all the way out on both of these parts, both of these axles. I know I'm at 1 5/8 inches, I will cross that out. And I did not draw into my CO2 cartridge hole. It also matches up here, my orange area here. I did not draw into that, so that means I'm good there, and I will cross it off. Once I have everything done, whether it's checked or crossed off, I am done with my second assessment worksheet, and I can go and submit it for review. Good luck. If you have any questions, please ask.